Thank you. Hey everybody, it's Mother Ann Schneer from Trinity Episcopal Church in Marshall, Michigan. It's 9 o'clock, so that means it's time for our end of day routine, our prayers and our song. And today is the last day that we're going to talk about the Camino de Santiago, which Matthew and I did last year during my sabbatical. But first, before we do any of that, I am going to pull up Facebook here and I'm going to find the stream. And I'm going to share it so that people can find us. And let's see, what was Santiago like? Find out. There we go. And put that there so I can see your comments as they come in, and I can greet people as they come in as well. So I see that Mama J is here and Sharon is here also. Nice to see both of you. That's fabulous. Now normally we start out with the map cam as we talk about the journey that Matthew and I took over 35 days. But if you were joining us last night, you know that we actually got to Santiago a year ago yesterday. So yesterday you got to see what that was like, kind of coming into the city, walking through that giant sort of tunnel with the bagpipe and the tambourine playing from those street musicians, like really amazing. And then we ended our day with a fabulous dinner and went to sleep, and we just rested as much as we could. I see Mama J is saying hi, so hi back at you. Nice to see you. So what is that? Oh, our camera is beeping at me.
Just died.
The camera just died. Okay.
So it needs to be plugged in.
Okay.
It's on the ground.
What is the plug?
That's the silver one you have in your hand.
This
That's the one.
this here?
Yeah.
What? Leave it. Oh, it needs to be plugged into the camera. Okay.
Yep. This is not enough space for anything here.
Okay.
People are still able to hear us.
Oh, how funny. Okay,
Yeah,
so we're
because
just
they're just not. Yeah, they're just
yeah,
not.
and the audio is coming in through the microphone,
Yeah.
the separate microphone. Huh, how funny. So I see. Oh, yep, and there's my frozen face looking confused.
And OBS is pushing out a live picture
Well,
now,
good.
so-
And I'll say hi to Wendy because Wendy joined us, and Noreen as well. And I'm gonna. So you said it's pushing a live video now, so I can just keep going. So on my screen, because there's a delay, I still have that kind of weird, confused look. And I'll say hi to George, and there it's going to black, and now we're live again. Fabulous. That's great. Thanks for figuring that out. I was seeing that the camera was plugged in at the power strip down below, but it had gotten unplugged from the camera itself. It's a detachable cord.
So in our setup last night, we were so hasty, I wasn't able to feed the power cord to the camera.
Oh.
So last night, we ran off of the battery, and it was just fine.
And it just died.
But it only had enough juice to get us through 1 minute of
Sure.
tonight's broadcast.
Because what we're looking at, actually, where I am is also my work area in our back room.
You can show off.
Yeah, I can move it around. Are you gonna pull up the map cam?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
We'll do that.
So we can see that. So while you're doing that, do you want to give me pictures, and I'll start going through the pictures?
There's the pictures.
All right. So Matthew says that we have those, and I'm going to trust him. I suppose after 19 years, I should learn to do that, right? So what we're seeing here, you may remember from last night that there was a little Irish pub-looking place that looked interesting called the Derby. So I suggested that we go kind of have a brunch there, and so this is what it looked like inside. Oh, and here's
When you're ready.
Okay, so we'll get there in a sec. And it turned out it was just the same as every other little Spanish cafe that we had been to the entire time. It was tortilla de patata and bread and café con leche and all these things. It was really just like a decoration theme. It wasn't a food theme, which was a little disappointing because we were ready to have something different, and we were curious about a Spanish take on Irish food. But that was fine. It was still kind of fun to see something different because we didn't know where to go anyway. So it was just a great way to pick a place. Oh, and I see here. So Mama J is saying happy anniversary The 25th anniversary to Father Grant and Heather Wiseman, formerly of St. Andrews, Omaha. So great. Happy anniversary to the two of them. That's fabulous. And Wendy, yes, technology is fun, isn't it? Keeps us guessing. So we had our time there, and we got a little shot of the menu. And then Joe and Kate and Mom and Dad decided they wanted to go. There was another park that was sort of on the city limits, and Matthew and I were not really interested in doing extra walking. This is where you could see a clear difference in the energy of the people who had done 35 days of walking and the people who had done 6 days of walking. So here they had a beautiful, you see this nice overlook. You can see the cathedral in the background. I believe, do I still have a cursor? I don't know.
Yeah, yes.
I do. Okay.
The cursor is broadcasting.
So this A, I think of that as an anarchy sign, but I think it is something to do with severing the dependence between the Spanish state overall and the local principality. I think they don't call them states. I think it's more like, what do they say in Canada? They don't have provinces. I think it's trying to kind of assert sort of provincial independence over and against a national dependence. So I look at that A in a circle and I think anarchy, but that's an American take on it. I think in Spain it means something different. So it's just kind of funny that there's this giant eucalyptus tree with a in the circle with that graffito on it. Oh, Joan is here too. Hi, Joan. So that was really neat. They got to see that. A beautiful little area, and they took a lot more pictures. But we didn't go up there. And it says Eucalyptus globulus is the tree. And they have this gorgeous picture where they must have ducked down. There are some other pictures where the bushes are not in frame, but I just really like that picture that Joe took. Very pretty. And then this very interesting building that they saw over there, and you see the way the sculptures are. And Lopez Pedre Escultor, and some really interesting. We didn't see this kind of sculpture on a lot of the buildings, so just very kind of intricate and ornate. So that was kind of cool that they got to see that as well. And then these magnificent shots of the cathedral from that vantage point. And Joe made a friend, which was kind of nice. This little guy, just kind of taking it all in. And then this is from the square again, so we went to the main square to look around again and really take another look at the at the cathedral itself. And here, this is I think the pinnacle of the town hall, which is behind us. And I believe this here is St. James, Santiago. And St. James has another name. He's known as the Moor Slayer. And this goes back to war between the Christians and the Muslims in that area back, I forget what century. So centuries ago. And supposedly St. James kind of came back and helped them win battles against the Muslim population. And that's sort of one of the pieces of the St. James story that we find problematic now, because we don't think, saints should be slaying anybody. But it is sort of a truth we need to tell about part of that that legend, so that we're not just completely denying that there are any problematic pieces of that. And actually here we have, so St. James on a horse wielding a sword, and these are people down here. These are Muslims that he's fighting. So yeah, it's not something that we continue to celebrate now, but it is something that is kind of lauded in that architecture, that we need to say, well, that it's there, and we need to face it. We need to deal with it, and make sure that we are not forgetting that problematic part of the past. So here is the square, and this is a famous hotel that is adjacent to St. James Cathedral. And I guess by legend or by tradition, the first 10 pilgrims of every day who arrive at that hotel get to stay there for a night for free. So it's like a really, really fancy hotel, and we didn't even know about that. And we certainly were not going to get up early enough with all of us to get down there in time. But that's, some people really make that a thing. Like they get up really early so they can try to get there first thing, and get their spot. So here's another shot of the cathedral. This is closer of the it's a more close shot of the beginning or the front of that hotel, and you see how incredibly ornate it is. And it's the Hotel Paradores. So somewhere I'm sure we could Google it and see pictures of the inside. We didn't go inside at all. But it was interesting. This is the ramp that goes down to another part of the city, and you would go down this ramp and then around to the right to go to the pilgrim office, where you could get your Compostela. So we had done that the day before. And here is another church, and they took pictures of the inside. Matthew and I didn't go inside, but we just had so many pictures from these 3 days that we spent in Santiago that I didn't include them all. But this was interesting. We have these flowers that are growing out of the stonework. So we saw that several times, that there was actually like foliage and flowers growing out of the stone. It was very, very cool. And some beautiful stonework here in the exterior. And this is that tunnel that we went through the day before. We kind of got real familiar with this whole area. And here we see two other buskers that are also playing. This is a drum instead of a tambourine, and again they have the bagpipes. So it's two different musicians that are there. But it was just really, really cool. They had a little train tour. We didn't take the train tour, but that was kind of fun. And then of course, then again you see the towers. And this was a drain pipe in a very narrow alley. And what did we call it? We called it Diagon Alley?
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, so there's, we'll see pictures of people in it. The one picture that I took with nobody in it, it ended up sideways. I don't know why. So a very narrow alley, like just barely wide enough for you to walk through. But it was a great little shortcut that you could get away from the crowds. And this beautiful downspout was in there. So I had to take a picture of it because it was so cool looking. And here's Joe playing with the little spikes to discourage people from climbing on those grates. Here is St. James. Here is a pair of feet that are quite large. And here you can see a little taste of how commercial this area has gotten. You see it actually says souvenirs here in the window. And there is another guy where you can make your squished coin. And here's a vending machine, I think, with some sort of souvenirs in it. So it was just kind of interesting to start out like in the middle of nowhere in France and walk all this way and then get there and it's like souvenirs. So we really kind of downplayed how much we purchased. Here's just one of the streets packed full of people. Very busy. It took us a while to get used to being around that many people all the time. Again, it was kind of anxiety inducing, but still very cool. The way the apartments were, so the doors are on the left, and then the apartments would extend over, sort of where you can imagine that roof is, all the way up to the street. So you had these nice little cool corridors. And the temperature was actually literally cool because of the stone and the shade. That was very nice to walk down the street. And so this is the place where we passed by yesterday, where people were cheering us on. And we decided to camp out there for a little while and cheer on pilgrims ourselves. So here's my mom, there's Phoebe, there's Kate, there's Matthew, and that looks like Dad. It's probably... Oh, I'm taking the picture, I bet, because I don't see a timestamp on that, so that's not a Joe picture this time. So we did that for a while, which was fun. This was the front of one of the big churches on the way into Santiago, and we just thought that looked really interesting. So no idea what's going on there, but really cool looking. There's St. James again. There's another tower. We just kind of couldn't get enough of this architecture. It was so cool. And then here was Taberna de Bispo, which was a tapas place that we went to for dinner that evening. And I think I actually took this picture because the guy from Croatia that we saw that had the red and white checked shirt yesterday recommended it to us. And so we happened to be standing like right near there. So I took a picture of it so we could find it again, which we did. And it was very tasty that night. And again, just kind of to see the tourism that's going on here. Here's our little pilgrim guy that we saw in that region, this little mascot guy. And then all these bells down below and these little tchotchkes and knickknacks that you could buy. We, again, didn't buy a whole lot, but we did buy a couple things. And then here is a Queimada punch bowl, and we actually did the Queimada. We got some Queimada, so you'll get to see it in action later. We didn't buy a set for our own for ourselves, but we went to a bar and they prepared it for us. So that was really cool too. We got to see the cathedral in the sunset, which was really pretty. So we got some different light there. Again, just beautiful. These are pictures that Joe had a fabulous camera. Really, really cool. Great zooming and anything with a timestamp on it, he did. And I think Kate might have messed around with some of the black and whites too, because I don't see a timestamp on that, but I don't think I took any black and white pictures. But here you see the St. James Cross. That same kind of style. So just, again, really cool. More grass growing out of stone, so that was also, again, quite interesting to see. And the second day, you see the timestamp now, we're into July 23rd, which is tomorrow. So I kind of put all the Santiago pictures into one evening's presentation because it wasn't like each day was so eventful like it was when we were actually walking. So the next day was kind of overcast and drizzly, which again just made for some really interesting pictures, just kind of different. I think this may have been the day that we went to the museum. I can't quite remember. Matthew's nodding. Yes, that's right. And we went into the museum, but they didn't really want you to take a lot of pictures. So we could take some pictures. This is in one of the chapels that are on the roof of not of the cathedral, but of the museum, which is adjacent to it. So it's kind of, it's not quite aligned properly because you couldn't go all the way in, I don't think. But just really, really interesting. Just fascinating and so expensive. And these were, I think this is the chapel that has ashes of the royals. Like here, I think these are like cremains or remains. I mean, they may not be burned. It may just be bones. You see, here's a box and here's a box. I think these may be, some of these are like too small to be an actual whole person, but I think I remember that from the explanation of the tour that some of these are actually real, like it's the resting place of the Spanish royalty. You see all these little boxes over here. So I think here we may, it's kind of hard to see. This may, I'm seeing a horse. I'm seeing probably a guy on it with swords, and I'm seeing people down here. So again, that may be our Santiago, the Moor Slayer, represented. Because especially in the old art, you would see that quite a bit. The newer stuff does not. And I think, I don't know. This might be one of the earlier busts of St. James, but I'm not sure. We did in one of the museums, again, where you weren't supposed to take pictures, so we really tried to follow the rules and not take pictures of everything, especially if it said not to. But you could actually see there's like it's like a capelet that is on St. James' body, like kind of wrapped around that bust that we got to hug yesterday in St. James Cathedral. And it has it's like jewel encrusted, and they actually retired one of them, and that's on display somewhere in the museum. And so like the one that we got to touch was not the original. And I think I remember it was sort of like worn down, like those stairs that had the dip in it, like worn down over time, because of all the pilgrims, generations of pilgrims coming and hugging the saint. So what do we have going on here?
The
GoPro just stopped.
Oh.
Notice that you're frozen.
Oh, yeah, I was not looking at me. Okay. Well, we'll see. So we're unplugged, and I guess I can keep talking and showing pictures. Oh, but you need a mouse. Okay, go ahead. Please go ahead. I can talk about the museum a little bit. We got to go into the front of the church, which is under renovation right now, so it was all sealed off. And that entryway is called the Portico of Glory, and that was definitely something you were not supposed to take pictures of. Okay, so
yeah, it's gone.
Okay, so
they can't see you.
I understand that. So we're going to adjust. So what we're going to do, so folks, we got to do a little bit of thinking on our feet here. I think we want to still make sure that we can see the pictures.
And you can.
And you have the map cam, right, Matthew?
I do.
Okay, so can you put the map cam up along with the pictures?
Yeah, I can work on that.
Okay, so Matthew's going to work on that and see.
So go to the next picture and then.
I'm explaining to the but I cannot. All right. So the next picture here. That's what you're saying, and now so we're going to be trading the mouse as we try to adjust. So here, one of the really interesting things about this museum tour was that it got us access to the upper level of the museum, which was under renovation. But it's also where they had moved some things for storage, so that was interesting. And if you look on the left of this picture, we actually got to see some of the working area. If you look up above, there's that tower that has a real geometric type tower. It's not as flourishy and ornate and curvy. It's much more flat and angular. If you look right in front of that, you'll see some lines because there are nets there, so that as they are doing the work, if anything falls, it doesn't fall on the people that are working below. And you see there are tents there in the white area. That may be a place where they were set up for like actual restoration work, or that may have just been, protecting equipment or whatever. It's hard to say, but that it was just kind of interesting to see how they were kind of doing that. And there for scale, that is Kate walking as she's looking around. So again, very cool to see. Can we get to the next slide? Oh, I can. Okay, so again, for Kate, here it is. And I see that Sissy has joined us. So hello, Sissy. Nice to see you. Okay, and so I'm going to take the mouse back. Thank you. All right. So is it this camera facing, or is it?
It's the back.
It's the back. So I can. Nope. Okay. So this is me, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So Matthew, am I in a fair enough angle at this? Okay. All right. So Matthew's literally going to be my camera guy. Oh, okay. Always interesting to see how this all works. Oh, and we do have a stand. That's great. So here's Kate walking around. And this is one of the views of one of the towers through one of the arches, which is kind of neat. So I guess we can move the GoPro away. And we can put this here, and Matthew's going to make that look good while I talk. Okay, so one of the neat things we got to see was that the bells had been taken out of some of the towers, and here they are, either waiting for the tower to be worked on, or to actually work on the bell. All right, so again, there are the arches. And this was cool. You actually got to see they had taken some of these decorations down. And it looks like... Yeah, I can raise this table. Should I raise the table up?
Yeah.
Okay. how's that?
And you can probably rest the phone where it was.
Okay.
So in between changing, I want to switch out some other pictures. Going ahead.
Okay. All right, so I'll advance this here and go for it. So here you see some flowers. Around the edges of this whole area that was sort of like on the roof of this museum were tombs of bishops, tombs of important monastics, monks. And so this, I can't remember if we were able to kind of tell what was going on here. I think it looked like someone had more recently actually died, like not a an anniversary of a death, but maybe it was one of the more recent brothers who had passed away from whatever that community. There is a monastery in Santiago, so I think that may be connected somehow. I don't quite remember now, a year later, but that was that. So we would see, it was kind of interesting to walk around and see the tombs and try to kind of interpret from the Spanish that was on the tomb, like who were these people, why did they rank high enough that they got to be here. So I'm going to take a picture back. Awesome, thank you. And so there's Kate, looking cute. Are you able to tap your screen in advance?
No.
No, okay. All right, so
I can just do that.
I can just do, okay, thanks. So this is the square. So this is up. You could actually walk around the upper level of the cathedral from some areas. And so this is from sort of the up, if you're looking at the Cathedral of Santiago, up on the right, there's like a porch that kind of wraps around. And so this is from that vantage point. So what you're looking at is, on the left is the City Hall. And on the right is that hotel that I was talking about. And then down below is the square. So you can actually see, groups of people who have come in and that are finishing their pilgrimage right then. And so it's just really, really cool. I'm taking it back. And then another really cool image. That again is the town hall. And there's that statue of St. James with the horse up on the top in the middle. Okay. And so just really cool stuff. Now they were preparing for this festival. So as you see, I lost my cursor. Okay, here we go. So here are people that are on the roof, and you see there are boxes and all sorts of stuff happening. There's some floodlights, and what they're doing is they're setting fireworks up. So we can actually see what's going on. And here is a great picture of that horrible statue. So this is St. James, and these are Muslims down below. You can tell by their hats here that's what's going on here, and they're getting trampled by the horse and cut down by St. James. So again, problematic, but it's best to be honest about the problems. Shell. And then again, you have flowers growing in the walls here, which is just really, really neat. Here we go again. And people down in the square. And the tower, one of the towers. So is there more that you need to do in the screen? Okay. So this is the town from one of the side porches from that high vantage point, which is really, really neat. And one tower. And this was kind of neat, just the image through the gap in these two pillars. And you see the flowers again growing out of the stone, and then off in the distance is more some sort of spire or tower. It might be a crane, like a construction crane. And then, of course, we had to get ice cream. It was very hot still. Our apartment, we specifically rented one through booking.com that had air conditioning. So that was really nice. Sometimes it was a little too cold for one of us, but it was great because we got to sort of cuddle up. And again, we would sort of come in, cool off, and then go out again. Now here, across the street from our apartment was a yarn store. And in the yarn store, they also sold thread and made Spanish lace. And so this is actually a project that the lady who was working there was working on. She was making this, and you see all these pins. So here's her pattern down below. And she puts the pins in here. And she is honestly weaving this lace with all of these bobbins. So like that was just so cool to see. And those of you who know me know I loved craft, and so she actually she gave me a book of how to do Spanish lace, which was so sweet of her. And the book is in 2 languages. It's in Spanish and in Galician. So just really interesting, but it will have enough pictures and keywords that someday when I really want to apply myself, I'll be able to look at it and then cross-reference it and find other English language resources to maybe learn how to do this sort of thing. So it was just really cool to see that. Then we went out to dinner, so we were in a much more urban part, not sort of the old town, downtown area, but more kind of on the outskirts. And we found a pizza place, and we were really excited to find pizza. It was really delicious, and that is a calzone that was made for Phoebe, and that is one happy kiddo who is she still remembers that calzone and how wonderful it was. So we still talk about it today. And this is one of my favorite little street performer things. So every now and then, we were walking through a park and we'd see a street performer. This says hombre invisibile. It's so hard to say for me. And it's got a little shell. And some of you may remember that one of the functions of having your Camino shell was to drink water, or wine, or to receive donations, so that you could go make your dinner and or go buy your dinner. And so here is an example of a Camino shell that is being used to accept an offering. And actually there was a guy that was maybe 20 feet away that was taking a keen interest in that spot. So I think that was probably him. But that made me laugh, so I donated, because I was like, you know what, you win. You entertained me. Here's some money. Thank you for your entertainment. So this picture's a little bit out of order because of the way the videos are filed in this program. So on Kate and Joe's last night with us, we decided to go out and get queimada, which is supposedly a mystical drink that is, I forget the name of there's a liquor that is made from grapes in the area, and it's kind of like grappa, except I think grappa is Italian, and whatever this thing is Spanish. And it's like the leftover alcohol that's like distilled from making wine or something. So it's that liqueur. And it's got other ingredients in it, including coffee beans, and it's supposed to be a thing. And of course, all my devices are in use right now. But when you drink it, it's supposed to heal your wounds and give you the strength to kind of finish your walk as a pilgrim. And it was so funny because we were looking up recipes like, well, what is in this thing? And it's like, well, of course you're feeling no pain and you're feeling energized because it's liquor and coffee beans. So here we have a video that I think Joe took of the queimada. Oh, it's Kate. Kate took that video. So, we'll get back to that in a second. It's just unfortunate that that video is out of order. So this is a couple hours earlier as the sun is setting. The lights are coming on in the parks and in the city. The Festival of St. James, the Feast of St. James is July 25th. And so they're preparing for Apostolo 2019. You can see the beautiful lights that they have going on. And depending on the camera and where you're standing, the light looks light or the light looks dark. But the people are starting to gather. It's getting really interesting. Found a chocolate shop. Did we ever get any of that stuff? I don't remember.
We did not get these, but these were adorable.
Yes.
You can get a chocolate peregrino or a peregrina.
Yes.
You can see you actually have a. Are those chocolate or those are cookies?
They look like cookies.
Those are decorated cookies.
Yeah, but they also sold chocolates. Like down below, you see they're like chocolate confections.
But there's a way marker
Yep.
with blue, and then there's a Santiago shell, and then there's a beautiful rendering of the cathedral on another cookie.
It's just amazing.
And then like a very adorably decorated peregrino or peregrina.
Yeah, it's very, very cool. So what we Kate and Joe and Matthew and I decided it's their last night. Let's go do this queimada thing. Let's see if we can find it, because there was one bar that kind of was advertising a lot during the last several days of the Camino. So we looked it up. Matthew found it. We went there and we asked if they did it, and we were clearly, I think, early. Like we were too early to be part of the party rush. Like they were open, but there was nobody around in the bar.
Well, because it was dinner time.
It was, so people were eating their meals because it was 11 o'clock. I mean, it was everything there gets started so late. So we asked for queimada para cuatro, and they told us that we had to eat outside or drink it outside. We couldn't do it inside. So we were getting set down at a table, and then I looked up, and then there was this group of, I think, 3 Korean women that we had known earlier in the trip. In fact, the day that Matthew and I said our goodbyes before we took that taxi that from Carrion de los Condes to León, we said goodbye to this group. So it was he and 2 other women, and I can't remember their names, but they were so wonderful. And it was really exciting because we were really excited to see them, and like we couldn't believe that we ended up seeing each other again, because we hadn't seen them in like 2 weeks. And so we invited them. Oh, CJ was a second one. It was he and CJ, and then the other young woman. I only sort of knew her as kind of connected with the group. I didn't have a lot of conversations with her on the trip, but I knew CJ and he better. And so we invited them to join us for the queimada. And so I went back into the bar, and I said, nuevo amigos, queimada para siete. And they of course were kind enough and patient enough with me to figure out that I said something like new friends, queimada for 7. So it worked out really, really well, because then we could go ahead and do the queimada. And it was just that much better to have this moment with our friends. So what they do is they bring it out and they light it on fire, and then everybody takes turns stirring it and then kind of scooping it up so you can really see the flames. So we have, like, it was just, imagine how much alcohol is in there that it keeps burning like that. So this is the the waiter took pictures. So here, this is he, and this is CJ, and I don't remember her name, because CJ and he and I and Matthew, we had run into each other several times during the middle section of our Camino. And then there was one other person, Sue, I think was her name, and she decided to sleep, like to go to bed early at the apartment, so we didn't get to see her. And Sue was the first one that I had met. So that, that was too bad to miss her, but it was really, really neat. So here, we're stirring again. There's Kate. There's Matthew. There's he. And there's me. So and these are all from different cameras, so that's why they're out of order. There's Joe. There's me again. And then the waiter dished it out into the cups. So he made sure nobody got hurt.
But the flame lasted even into the cup.
It did. Look at that. That's so cool. And I think there's honey in there and cinnamon. There's spices. So really, really cool. And then here is the cup. And there's the sign. And this is what the cup looks like because you've got the little coffee beans there in the bottom. And it was very strong. I mean, it was basic. Oh, lemon juice. I remember now. It tasted like lemon too. So it was like spices and citrus and coffee beans and lots of alcohol. I mean, you only drank like this much. There wasn't a whole lot that it was like a flaming punch, but it was so fun. And I would love to get like a Kimada set so that some summer, when we have a whole bunch of people over after the COVID is all done, we could have that and have lots of fun. So then at the end of the night, there was a laser show and a light show. So we went back to check out the square. So this is the City Hall. And then, of course, there's us. And then this was, I think they were doing light tests because the next night was the eve of St. James Day. So we got to see some stuff, but we didn't see the whole light show. But it was still really cool. And then we were on our way back and we walked past that sign. And we were like, well, we got to get a picture of us in front of the sign. So we did. And so that's, walking home. After midnight, yep. 0:29, you see, on the 24th. It's Kate and Joe. So the next day we did some shopping. We got a dress for Phoebe. And then Kate and Joe went to the airport.
Yeah, they did.
And these timestamps are a little bit off, unfortunately, because we're dealing with different cameras. So this is a model of the Cathedral of St. James in the airport. And then this is a model of, I think, like medieval, the city of Santiago in the medieval era. And you can see here, here's the cathedral, and here is that weird, funny stair, I think.
Yep.
And so
that we did not, that it was blocked off.
Yeah, we couldn't go in that way.
And so that's that tunnel.
Yeah, so here's the tunnel that we went through, and now there's a hotel here, and now City Hall is here. And you go in, we went in the side entrance here. So just kind of interesting that it's, and you see how these towers have developed over time. Because here is, again, that same entrance, and here's that tunnel. But now, so here are those towers, and then they built all this on top. And where we were, I think, when we did the museum tour, might have been this area where you could kind of walk around. Mm-hmm. And then our pictures were taken from this spot here. So just really interesting how they had done that. Oh, and there are those funky towers. The real straight towers that are not that Baroque style. So just very, very interesting. I am Kate's resting in the airport. Oh, sorry. There we go. This is the little living area of the apartment that we were staying in. We rented it because it had enough bedrooms for so many people. And then here is a drying rack that we had set up for all of our clothes that we were washing. And then the next day, this is actually out of the window of our apartment. July 24th. So this is out of order, I guess, but this is because it's Joe's camera, but here they are. This was out of another one of the windows because we were very close to the building next to ours, and you could actually see there's St. James Cross right there.
And that was across the street.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if you look very closely, you can see wires attached to the stone because they don't want the pieces to fall off and kill someone.
There's that, and I think we were also thinking perhaps it was to discourage birds from going in and building nests. So it might have been a dual purpose. So these were really interesting, and I actually chose this particular shot somewhat carefully. And I just realized why those other pictures snuck in, because they texted me from the, so that's why some of these pictures are in there twice. So these are like
walking puppets.
Yeah, yes, walking puppets. So there are people here.
People inside.
And they're
that guy on the phone is not operating the puppet.
No. So like right about this level, like this would be where the person's shoulders are, and they're carrying the puppet like on their shoulders. And walking. So there was this parade, and I actually took a couple videos because it was really, really interesting. But remember, I was talking about how problematic some of the history and some of the celebration of the history is. As an American, there were some puppets that I found offensive and might be particularly offensive to African American people. The puppets do not depict African Americans because we're in Spain. They depict Moors, Muslims. So it's difficult. And so I actually chose not to share those pictures because of the sort of caricature nature of the puppets. But it was still really interesting to see how they did that. And that's always an interesting thing. In Easter, there's a big parade where it looks like the outfits that the people in the parade are wearing are KKK, Ku Klux Klan hoods. It's not what is happening. In fact, the KKK is much more recent than these traditional hoods, which are meant to cover your face because you're in a time of penitence. But because you're dealing with the sort of cone head with the eyes cut out, it looks very disturbing if you don't know more about the context. So rather than go into the whole thing when we're here on the internet, we decided to just not show not show all of the pictures.
We don't want an image taken out of context.
Yeah. But this drummer was cool.
Yeah.
So there are bagpipes, and there's a bagpiper right next to him. So the bagpiping and the drumming was really, really neat. And these people, people were just kind of flocking. It was really hard to get around. It was really, really interesting. Phoebe and I had a little adventure. We found a restaurant that served snails called Los Caracoles, which is the snails in Spanish. And here's a little snail guy. Here's a big snail guy. And so we went, and we did not eat snails. These are gummy snails. They actually did serve actual real snails. I forget what we ate even. We got something different because it just didn't feel right to eat my buddies. After all of the help they had given me to boost my morale, I did not choose to eat snails that time. But it was still fun. So here, this is Kate and Joe. I wonder, I can't remember if I assume we were told not to take pictures because I didn't take pictures. Or maybe I was just too busy talking with people.
If you zoom in on it, we could probably tell which one that is.
So is this the real one or the replica?
That is...
This might be the real one.
That might be the real one.
Okay, if I see them side by side. So what happened was a very wealthy family in Spain donated a second Botafumeiro. So this is the giant thurible that's like 4 feet tall. And it's on display right now because the cathedral is under renovation. And if Kate was here, she could tell us which one it is because, of course, she would remember which one she posed next to. But there's one that's more ornate and there's one that's more simple. And it could be that this is...
I'm thinking that is the one looking more ornate.
Yeah, because of all these
Probably
other
the
little...
replica.
Yeah, so...
I don't remember it having the little...
The little
symbols
thingies on
it.
it. So just kind of interesting. I remember asking the lady who was working at the museum, why are there two? And she was explaining that one was the real one and one is a replica for display, and the display one is more ornate than the actual one that is used. So just very, very interesting. And they were in the same room, so you could see them.
And it makes sense that the replica would be more ornate because the replica is just for looking at.
Yes.
And if it's only for looking at, then it better be really fancy.
It better be worth looking at.
Yeah. And if the other one is a working thurible.
Yes. Yes.
You don't want all the decorations in the way.
So then we put Kate and Joe on the bus. So this is us saying goodbye. Mom is like, don't go. And then, so here again is that model that they had in the
Casey,
airport.
Come here.
And again, there's
No room for you, buddy.
Santiago.
Lay down. Lay down.
So just real interesting. Here's Joe for scale. Yeah, really interesting thing. And then once again, we get Kate sleeping. And your last chance to buy some Serrano ham that we probably would, jamón de Serrano, that you'd have to hand over, I think, in customs. They specifically asked us if we had any meat, and we didn't I didn't understand why they were asking about meat specifically until later when I was like, that Serrano ham was really good.
Could have gotten a couple of those in a duffel bag.
This is traditional cheese, and it is based on in the Portico of Glory, in one of the original sculptures, the breasts of one of the saints, the female saints, were large enough to provoke a complaint from a patron.
And also there was Saint Stephen kind of giving it all away.
Yes, was it Stephen?
Yes,
It was Saint Stephen, who's got this kind of weird look on his face.
Well, all of the other saints seem to have their eyes focused toward the center of this piece. Saint Stephen is craning his neck.
It's kind of lecherous,
looking across the hall, and it just so happens that his gaze is falling on these female saints.
And so they tooled the breasts of this saint so that they were more modest, and to kind of poke fun of the whole incident. By legend, that is why these cheeses here on the left are that shape. So this is some traditional cheese of the region, and they're conical because of the breasts of whatever that saint is. So that's the legend that we heard, which was always entertaining. Then at the end of the day,
that was the eve of the 24th.
Yep. So we got fireworks. Kate and Joe are pulling up. They're flying away. I don't even know what this is anymore, but it was cool. We're still in Santiago. You can tell because of the shell, and then there's so this is just one of the facades, I think, of the cathedral. And then Mom and I stumbled into a protest, and that was really, really interesting. And here are police with machine guns, and we got kind of nervous. We had to cross the line to get to our apartment, and everything was fine, but that was very interesting. Kate and Joe are flying away, so this is all kind of happening at the same time. And then this is Diagon Alley, and you see how narrow it is. That's my dad there with this. So it's you can pass through comfortably, but only single file comfortably. And of course, as we were walking, one of the workers at one of the restaurants was trying to take a smoke break. The poor thing. And so here she's trying to get a little privacy, and then here's our family going this way, and then here's some other people coming that way. So the poor thing ended up taking her smoke break during rush hour. So, but she was okay. And then this is out of our window. This is, I think, Kate and Joe's window, because I think the next night, the apartment that we were in, Matthew and I ended up sleeping like right under the ceiling of the third level, and we ended up with spider bites like all over our legs and arms. And so when Kate and Joe left a day early, we took their room so that we could get out of those beds, and we were much more comfortable. It wasn't bug bite, or wasn't bed bugs. We were watching for those, for that issue, but they were just regular spiders or something uncomfortable and itchy. So this again was out of that window, very, very beautiful as the sun was setting. And then that night they had fireworks. We tried to go into the square for the fireworks, but because Mom and I brought a bottle of wine, they wouldn't let us into the square because of the glass bottle. So we gave up on that, went home and went out to dinner instead, and that was fine. And so we got to see these fireworks instead, which were quite beautiful, especially with the cathedral there on the side. And that was the end of our time. The next morning we woke up very early, and we actually were walking toward the bus station while the party was dying out outside. So we were leaving at 4 or 5 in the morning.
Yeah, to get on the
bus to get to the airport. Yeah. And people were on the bus with us that were going to the airport so they could take a flight home after partying all night. I mean, it was nuts. It was very busy. It was a lot like Leon as far as whatever was going on in Leon the night that we were there. It was just party straight through. And we ended up with lots of inside jokes because there was one guy that was just shouting because our room was on the street side, and so there's one guy that was just shouting.
He was just shouting like, "Hey!"
He was saying, "No!"
Oh yes, no.
He just kept saying it over and over and over. So Matthew and Phoebe still like to joke around about that. Come on, buddy, it's time to go to bed. No! So he was just really, really drunk. So that was an interesting way to say goodbye to the city. Is like, okay, so Phoebe, this is why you don't drink to excess. See these people acting fools. So it's just very, very, very fun. But it was really neat to take in the city, to have a couple days in one place, to look around, start to get your bearings. Matthew got his tattoo. I got some yarn. We went to 2 different yarn shops, and I was able to find some Spanish yarn, which was very interesting. So just really, really a cool experience. So that's it. I mean, of course we have more stories, but we all got to go to bed. But thought you might enjoy the pictures. So that is really a wrap for our Camino stories and pictures. It's been a while now, 36 days, because of course we had 35 days on the road plus a day to review kind of the Santiago portion of it. And those of you who were tuning in, thank you for joining me for that journey. It was really, really cool. And Wendy, I see you thanking us, and it's our pleasure. It's really been fun to look over the pictures and tell the stories as well. So we'll go ahead and we'll do our prayers and our song. And let's get I don't know where my other little candle is, so I'm going to grab this one. I found a second candle holder that I'll use. Oh, it's time for me to go to bed too, I think. Excuse me. Alright, so I'm looking at, I think here. This may be visible. Let's see. All right, so for tonight, we are praying with special intention for the Standing Committee of the Diocese of Western Michigan and the Diocese of Eastern Michigan, for Gretchen, Donald, Wayne, Dana, Judy, Phil, Diana, Mike, Kimberly, for those working to achieve a greater experience of justice, especially for the youth of our nation, for Luke, Mama J, Sheila, for an anonymous loved one, Dolly, Tom, Paul and Pat, Bob, Mac, and for the school systems as they consider how to re-enter school in the fall. Praying also for Family Bible Church here in Marshall, for all public safety officers, especially for police, fire, and sheriff departments, for hospice patients and workers, for those who are sick and their caregivers, for the patients and staff at Oaklawn, Bronson, and Borges hospitals, for Marshall Nursing and Rehab here in Marshall, and also for our parish, for Mary and Peggy, Diana, Tom and Carolyn, Dick and Abby, Murphy, Linda, Jim and Jan, and Dave and Margaret. And in our Compline prayers, we pray, be present, O merciful God, and protect us through the hours of this night, so that we who are wearied by the changes and chances of this life may rest in your eternal changelessness. Through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen. So the hymn that I have for tonight is Jerusalem, My Happy Home. And the tune name is Land of Rest. And you may know that from I Come with Joy to Meet My Lord. So it's another hymn with the same tune but different words. And Matthew and I talked a little bit about how Santiago seemed like a little kind of foretaste of heaven in a couple different ways. And as we were exploring the town and bumping into people that we never thought we'd see again, or seeing pilgrims that we had difficulty recognizing because we were used to being so bedraggled and dirty and tired, that to see somebody like fresh after a shower and a really good night's sleep in a bed and a good meal and not walking all day, it felt like everybody was sort of refreshed and renewed. And we ran into our friends that were traveling in a pack from France. We saw our friends from Korea. We saw the guy from Belgium. Just all sorts of different friends that we kept kind of running into. And it was just really neat to see kind of everybody transformed in that way. And it made me think of heaven. And so this whole idea of looking forward to going there again, looking forward to seeing our friends again in heaven was just sort of something on my mind. So that's our song for tonight. So are you ready? Okay. Jerusalem, my happy home, when shall I come to thee? When shall my sorrows have an end? Thy joys when shall I see? Thy saints are crowned with glory great. They see God face to face. They triumph still, they still rejoice in that most happy place. There David stands with harp in hand, as master of the choir. 10,000 times one would be blessed who might this music hear. Our Lady sings Magnificat with tunes surpassing sweet, and blessed martyrs' harmony doth ring in every street. Jerusalem, Jerusalem, God grant that I may see thine endless joy, and of the same partaker ever be. I really like that one points out like different heroes like David and Mary, and kind of talks about what they may be doing up in heaven, and it kind of felt that way, like, oh, there's so and so, and let's go see what they're up to. So I thank you for joining me tonight. I hope that this kind of primed us to think of beautiful and holy things tonight as we go to sleep. I hope you get some good rest, and that you get reinvigorated and energized for tomorrow. And we will still do this, the 9 o'clock thing, with the prayers and the song, for a while yet. I don't have any plans of when to retire this. I am going on vacation, starting on Monday next week. So we got to figure out if we're going to continue during that time, what we're going to do. I may just kind of take a break for a couple weeks to give myself a real good deep rest. But we'll still figure out what to do, and try to continue to build community in this format as well as in person, because we're still in this sort of hybrid mode, with doing some worship and interaction at church and some online. And I thank you guys for being part of that whole experience for all of us. So we'll see you tomorrow night. Take care. God bless you. Have a good night's sleep, and we'll see you tomorrow.